Armenia says its fighter jet, shot down by Turkey. Armenia says one of its fighter jets was shot down by a Turkey jet, in a major escalation of a conflict over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region. The Armenian Foreign Ministry said the pilot of the Soviet-made Su-25 died after being hit by the Turkish F-16 in Armenian airspace. Turkey, which is backing Azerbaijan in the conflict, has made no comments. Nearly 100 people, including civilians, have died in 3 days of fighting over the disputed mountainous region. The mountainous enclave is officially part of Azerbaijan, but has been run by ethnic Armenians since 1994. The fighting that started 3 days ago now appears to be spilling out of Nagorno-Karabakh. Armenia-Turkey relations are officially non-existent and have historically been hostile. Whilst Turkey recognized Armenia, in the borders of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic, shortly after the latter proclaimed independence in September 1991, the two countries have failed to establish diplomatic relations. In 1993, Turkey reacted to the war in Nagorno-Karabakh by closing its border with Armenia out of support for Azerbaijan. In 2008-2009, the countries experienced a brief thaw in bilateral relations, and in October 2009 the sides signed the normalization protocols 2, 3, 4. However, the protocols were never ratified, and in the following year, the rapprochement came to a close. 5, 6. The protocols were formally annulled by Armenia in March 2018. For a half-century leading up to World War I, the Armenian populations of Anatolia became increasingly politically active, and in turn endured increasingly more brutal persecution under Sultan Abdul Hamid II. As the Ottoman Empire declined, its political leadership either authorized or tolerated increasingly violent and reckless attacks on the Armenian population, attracting harsh criticism from various Western nations whose missionary communities in Anatolia witnessed several wide-scale massacres of Armenians. From 1894 to 1896 the Sultan ordered the deaths of up to 300,000 Armenians, 14, resulting in at least 50,000 Armenian orphans, 15, in the Hamidian massacres, which were later described by BBC correspondent Chris Morris in the New Turkey, Granta Books, 2005, as a portent of the grim events of 1915, 16. The concurrent and accumulated testimony of hundreds and thousands of intelligent people, Christian and Jew, Catholic and Protestant, European and American, made it conclusively certain that a massacre of innocents, unparalleled for ages, had been perpetrated in the Armenian provinces of Turkey. The New York Times, January 25, 1896. Following the Hamidian massacres, the seizure of the Ottoman Bank by Armenian revolutionaries later that year, apparently a naive plea for Western intervention on behalf of the Armenians of the Ottoman Empire, contributed to stoking Hamidian persecution of Armenians. Those who stormed the bank were eventually granted safe passage out of the empire, but the Armenian population found itself subject to intensified violence as the Sultan made no distinction between the revolutionaries who had stormed the bank and the Christian populations at large. The ensuing violence prompted condemnation from several heads of state, including American President Grover Cleveland, who condemned the bloody butchery in Anatolia. While it was unclear to what extent the violence against Armenians was governmentally organized, Cleveland's speech noted that strong evidence exists of actual complicity of Turkish soldiers in the work of destruction and robbery. 17. In 1909, as the authority of the nascent Young Turk government splintered, Abdul Hamid II briefly regained his sultanate with a populist appeal to Islamism. 30,000 Armenians perished in the subsequent Adana massacre. 18. News from BBC and Wikipedia. Please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.